Hello, everyone, and welcome to our one-of-a-kind webinar with Planisware and thought leaders in the PMO. So just while people are still joining and to make sure that everyone gets the best experience, I'm just going to go over a quick rundown of the rules and what you see on your screen. So at the bottom right, you have the chat where you can chat with everyone. You can send whatever messages you want. So if you would like, also, you can start by saying, where are you coming from? Where are you joining us from? Because we know we have a lot of people in this webinar. So feel free to type, where are you joining us from? Next to it, you have the questions tab. Feel free, please, to send questions in the questions tab so that everyone will have access to the questions and be able to vote on them, prioritize, and then we can answer those questions live. Because I know a lot of people are very interested in what we are going to discuss today. We will have a lot of questions. We already have some prepared questions from other participants, but yes, feel free to do that. We will also be sending a poll in the chat so that people can vote on the poll about what they think about the value of the PMO. I think the poll will be coming up right now. So feel free to vote on the poll, which is, what is the biggest value PMOs bring to organizations today? I have my own opinion. Hiba has her own opinion, Fred as well, and Rhoda. So we'll see what people will say, what people think, and of course, do not hesitate to submit your responses. Of course, to remind everyone that the recording of the session will be sent to the registrants. And yeah, so to give you a small brief about what we are going to talk about today, so we will talk about the evolution of the PMO, the critical role PMOs are doing in connecting strategy to execution, because let's be honest, while PMOs are more important than ever, many still struggle to maintain relevance, influence prioritization, and demonstrate measurable value across the enterprise. And that raises a lot of questions, to be honest. I have been with Planisware for the past 6 years, and I have seen the evolution of the PMO and different naming conventions, if I can put it in the right way, from PMO to EPMO to SPMO, VPMO, TMO, and the list continues over and over to as many letters as you want before the word PMO. But actually, to put it in another way, what is the true value of the PMO? No matter the role of the PMO, no matter where at the organization they are playing a role. And also, what our C-level executives are actually expecting from their PMO. Before going into and presenting the speakers that we have today, I can see from the poll, we have around 41% of our participants said that it is strategic alignment. And then comes next, governance and visibility. This is a very interesting factor, actually, because I actually personally voted on strategic alignment, but we'll hear it from the real thought leaders in the domain. So let me please start by introducing Hiba Al-Shahi. Hello, Hiba, and welcome to our webinar. So just to give you a little brief about
Hello, Tony.
Hiba. Hiba is a PMO expert and author of the book Elements of Leaders. Hiba is the head of PMO at Dubai Municipality in the UAE, also recognized globally for her leadership. She was awarded the World Best PMO Leader of the Year in 2023. In addition to her professional role, of course, she actively contributes to the project management community as the lead in the PMO GA MENA Hub with the PMO Global Alliance. Glad to have you here with us, Hiba.
Honored to be here, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiba. And second, we would also like to introduce Dr. Frederick Casagrande, Global Strategic Leader and VP at TACA Distribution in the UAE as well. Dr. Frederick is a results-driven leader with over 25 years of expertise in strategic project program portfolio management, and he has a proven track record of setting up and operating PMOs within dynamic international environments. Thank you for your participation with us, Fred, if I might call you Fred, of course. Thank you for your participation with us today. And last but not least, allow me to welcome Engineer Rauda Al-Subai, a PMO leader and a founder. Rauda held senior roles across enterprise PMOs and process excellence, leading complex national programs and major events. After managing the enterprise PMO at Qatar Energy and then Ooredoo, which is one of the leading telecommunication companies, Rauda founded her own company, Techpreneur, where she enables enterprises, government entities to deploy sector-specific solutions that deliver measurable impact. She is also part of Women Tech Network, and welcome Rauda with us today as well.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so just before we move in to discussing the different questions that we have today, I would just like to introduce you for newcomers, of course. Who am I? My name is Johnny. I am part of the sales team at Planisware for the MENA region. And I have experience in project portfolio management, supporting our customers in digital transformation when it comes to SPM, PPM, and working with different types of PMOs, IT professionals, C-levels. And of course, last but not least, what is Planisware? So just quickly, a couple of minutes. Planisware, we are deeply appreciate the speakers that we are having today with us. And of course, just to quickly introduce you to Planisware, which is a leader in project portfolio management, according to analyst reports, Gartner, Infotech, Forrester, you might know some of them. And we have three main core values at Planisware: proximity, innovation, and expertise. Proximity is that because we like to be close to our customers. 20 offices globally, wherever in the world, in different regions, we are there. And of course, we are trusted by industry leaders, no matter the different industries are using Planisware for their PMO solutions, for their project portfolio management, risk, resource, and so on. And of course, I'm not going to go into details because most of you know Planisware. And if you want to know more, of course, do not hesitate to reach out after the webinar or at the end so that we can show you our platform where we have all the different capabilities of Planisware, from strategic portfolio management, project management, for the PMOs and beyond. Of course, a lot for different industries. And it's an AI unified platform, single source of truth solution, which helps PMOs, I would say, in 99% of the circumstances, if there's a process in place and other things, which what we will just discuss today. Of course, it's a solution for all different types of people, for all the different types of users, for the PMOs, project managers, resource managers, portfolio managers, IT team, and also, most importantly, for the executives to have an overview on the different types of projects and what is happening. So I'm done with my presentation. Of course, do not hesitate to ask your questions in the chat. We will now go with our first question to Hiba. And Hiba, I would like to ask you, this is something that came a lot from a lot of people that are participating, and we would love your opinion about it. And this is, it's actually the foundation of the PMO. And the question is, why does the PMO exist in the first place?
I think that the PMOs existed long before we formally called it a PMO. There has always been a need for organizations to have a function that could see the reality of execution and communicate it clearly to leadership. Because as you know, in project, each project manager, each team member has a specific task to do. Reporting and communicating what's happening could not be their priority. Their priority is to execute. So that function could have been called something like maybe follow-up office, maybe reporting office, coordination team, or anything, maybe something entirely different. But it's the same need. It started, in my opinion, it started like this. Leadership needed visibility, projects needed coordination, organizations needed someone who can like connect the dots, connect all of these moving parts in the project. And over time, that function evolved. So it moved beyond simply only reporting project status into identifying different patterns happening across different projects. Why are projects repeating the same mistakes? Are there common risks that we are not noticing? Are there some teams maybe succeeding while others struggling? So we noticed this kind of behaviors, different behavior, and even in terms of using standards and methodologies, maybe that team started to notice that this person is doing things in a different way that is more successful than others. So that evolution naturally led to PMOs to focus on key several areas that we all now know about, like, for example, setting the standards and methodologies, making sure that people are actually complying to these standards and methodologies, so governance and compliance, capability building and qualifying the team who is handling this project, reporting and executive visibility, and of course, enabling tools, systems, documentation, organization, and knowledge to be shared. Little by little, the PMO evolved again. Now, what we see right now is that the PMO is becoming more strategic, helping organizations prioritize investment, align execution with strategy, shaping portfolios, supporting decision making, and ultimately driving the organizational value.
Okay, this is very interesting, Hiba, because this is actually what we have seen, as well as the evolution of the PMO and how the PMO, what is the main reason a PMO existed. In my own experience, for example, the PMO, it was just more like the PMO is something that existed for so long, but people maybe did not call it a PMO in the first place, but it's really evolved from being operational to strategic throughout the years. And this is where it comes to my second question, actually, to Rauda. And Rauda, what would make the PMO, whether it was a project management office, program management office, or any other things, what would make it more strategic in nature?
For me, the moment PMO stop asking, are we on track? And start asking, are we on the right track? This is the moment that PMO becoming more strategic and moving from the traditional role of being a delivery engine, focusing on execution, reporting, and governance. So just let me share with you like a story from my own previous job as a senior director of PMO. So I was working on establishing portfolios and mapping projects. And I know that the company has a strategic objective of being a digital leader. So when I started looking at the projects, I saw zero initiative related to AI because the focus was mainly during this time was about AI. So, I took the initiative to make PMO strategic was when we stepped into the gap itself. So we proposed that AI Center of Excellence needs to be established not as an IT initiative, but more as a capability governed at a portfolio level. And this really showed how PMO, like shifting from being managing projects into more strategic role. And I would say, like in general, there are like, let's say, certain shifts that will change the traditional role of PMO into strategic. If we focus more into right investment, not only delivery, so it is strategic. If we focus more into making decision better and giving, the management faster decision making, if we continuously asking whether, like we are creating the value required for the business and bringing everybody together, like the different departments, strategy, HR, technology, everybody together. And finally, I would say moving from being cost center to business enabler. These are the big shifts I see moving PMO from delivery to strategy.
Yeah, I completely agree as well with you, Rauda. And this shift actually is enabling more the PMO to be on the strategic layer of the enterprise, not only to be focused on something specific or one department, but more like on the strategic layer on what is happening all around the enterprise. But there's something that I would like to add, and maybe I'll get Fred's opinion on that. Fred, in your opinion, what do you think? What would define the value, the PMO value, basically, in your opinion? Because we always talk about the value of the PMO, the value what the PMO is giving as a value. What is, in your opinion, the PMO value?
It's an interesting question, and unfortunately, consistently over the past couple of decades, I've seen PMO leaders trying to self-answer that question rather than asking that question to their customer. And those shifts that we were talking about in terms of going more strategic, it's a natural evolution and it's a natural desire from PMO leaders to want to move from just monitoring and controlling a portfolio of projects into something that is more strategic in nature. But actually, it's not up to us to define the value. Each PMO is different in nature because the need for every organization at any point in time is different as well. And if you're trying to fix a problem that is not the problem of your customer, whether you serve the CEO directly or any specific business unit within the business, well, you're not delivering value because you're not answering the need of the customer. So the answer to that question is the value of the PMO is whatever your customer desires as an outcome from your project, from your PMO.
Very interesting, very interesting. And this, when we were just speaking with Rauda, she was mentioning about that the PMO should be shifting from on time, on budget metrics to some other things on a higher level. So, so Fred, how do you? I know you mentioned that the value of the PMO can be different for PMO specific for different companies, but in your opinion as well, how do you measure the value delivered by the PMO beyond those traditional things that we mentioned, like on time, on budget metrics?
Well, so let's work on the assumption that the PMO needs to be strategic, because overall, as much as I'm saying that it's not up to us to define what consists value for our customers, statistically, most of the PMOs nowadays, the value that they're adding is a better adequation of the organization with their markets. And that means what? We enable companies to actually deliver their strategy, so execute their strategy. So I would say there are a couple of metrics that go beyond. We all expect our projects to be on time, on budget, and in adequation with the agreed scope baseline. But there are other metrics that measure the performance of the portfolio, which is resource allocation and resource utilization. We need to look at a percentage of strategic drivers that are actually being delivered compared to the strategic plan. That also works on the assumption that there is actually a strategic plan that is defined and broken down into elements that are deliverable. But I would say beyond that, there is the satisfaction of the customer. So at some point, somebody in the PMO needs to go back to the customer, to the CEO, to the executives, and ask, hey, how well am I doing? And most often, I mean, either as a PMO leader, we don't have access to those people, or we're so bogged down into the day-to-day firefighting and operation that we don't have time to do that. So we need to establish those mechanisms where we get the feedback from our customers, either per transaction every time we push a strategic project from stage to stage, or when we complete a project, but at least on a periodic basis, whether it's quarterly, 6 monthly, or yearly, we need to understand what's the level of satisfaction from our organization and our customers with regards to the services that we are offering.
Yeah, this is completely true, actually, and that's what we've been seeing nowadays as well, especially now with the evolution of the PMO. I just want to tackle something as well here, that when we launched this webinar, actually, when we sent the invites to people and people registered, we had a lot of project managers registering, a lot of PMOs registering, but also a lot of executive level and strategy level people registering. So it's really a topic that is interesting to all the different hierarchy in different companies, to be honest, which is very interesting. And we at Planisware, we also have, of course, we produce brochures, ebooks, and so on to educate, to help the people share knowledge. But we have one specific ebook that gains a lot of attention, which is from PM to PMO. And this is how people would like to see the shift from PM to PMO as well. Some of the questions actually that we got when we launched the webinar were not about the PMO, on how to become a PMO or how to be more strategic, but about the value, about what we think, or maybe I can ask this question to you, Rauda, if you don't mind. What do you think are the benefits that C-level executives are expecting from the PMO? Since, of course, you worked at different companies, very close to the C-levels. What do you think the C-level executives are expecting from the PMO?
You know, if you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would say that the role of PMO is to build governance, create processes, and, you know, smart dashboards. But being in the meetings with the executive, and I noticed that they don't really care about, you know, the perfect template and the beautiful Gantt charts. But what they really care and they are looking forward for is answers to simple but important questions. So they are thinking, are we investing in the right thing? Are we adapting fast enough? Are our projects even moving the needle towards the strategy? So these questions indicate that the role of PMO has really changed in order to cater for the C-level, I would say, expectation. So if I want, you know, to summarize this, I would say what C-level is really looking forward from PMO is first, and I think we answered it in the beginning of the webinar, ensuring projects and investments are directly aligned with the business strategy, so strategic alignment. Helping them to take decisions really fast on real time, or يعني, even to accelerate the projects or even to kill the projects. Identifying risk early, not only at a project level, I would say, if the PMO is strategic and important, you know, it will have like the organizational view, so operational and business challenges as well. And finally, value realization. During the business case, whatever the sponsors or the, you know, initiators, they promise management about having the value, I believe PMO has a role to check whether we have really realized this value or not. Did we achieve the business outcome or not? These are, you know, some of the key things I believe C-level is looking from the PMO currently.
Okay. Very interesting, Rauda. Actually, there was something that you mentioned that really reminded me of something that is adapting to change, and that C-levels would like to see how fast they can adapt to change. I remember back in the days when smartphones got launched and the touchscreen, maybe Nokia was not very fast to adapt to the change, so it got left behind. Now we are seeing with the shift with AI, a lot of course, we all hear it, semiconductors, chips, AI chips, and so on. But I'm pretty sure some of them will fail at the end of the day because they will not be able to adapt to the change that is happening, to the demand of the market. So really, this is very interesting, adapting to change, because as you mentioned, Rauda, as well, a nice Gantt chart, a nice dashboard, a nice PDF presentation, we all can do that. Everyone can do that with some effort, some AI tools. You can do that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Fred. I can see you're smiling. You know, those things can be directly now. You can just ask Copilot, Gemini, or Claude, even, which is everyone is using. Just give me something nice for my executive. You even give them the profile of your executive, and they give you something that is relevant to them. So, which is very interesting, right? I want to go back to something that we discussed before, that I mentioned at the beginning, is the different naming conventions of the PMO. EPMO, Transformation PMO, Strategic PMO, Operational PMO, and much more. Now we can also, some people are using VMO as the Value Management Office instead of the PMO. Hiba, maybe I can ask you this. What do you think the value of the benefits that are coming from those different naming conventions? Why are people using those different naming conventions?
I think, Johnny, right now, as you said, there are so many namings for the PMO, but it's getting confusing. But on the other hand, it is kind of positive because people are trying to think about how to make their PMOs special. How do they make it evolve from just their normal day-to-day operation to something more, could be more strategic or beyond its traditional role. But at the same time, I also agree with Frederick that we need to go back to the customers, see whether they want more out of this PMO, or is the standard procedure just good enough for them? Or even not only the internal customers, but also the external customers, do they need more for the adaptability of the company? Are we supposed to change or not? So that's something really important. It's true, there are so many namings coming, even stuff that could not make sense. Like, for example, YPMO or VPMO, XPMO, whatever it is, just to differentiate. But the way we can differentiate PMOs, what makes it special, let's say, is by reviewing how does it operate, how can we make the operation better, different than our competitors. And from my experience in Dubai municipality, how does the PMO integrate with the other organizational functions? This was actually requested by the management. This is a gap that we found. And we started working on the PMOs, trying to interact with different aspects of the organization, such as enterprise agility, innovation and knowledge management, asset management, future foresight, other than strategic planning and decision making, of course. So how does the PMO as a function interact with other functions across the organization, and whether they are collaborating together in a standardized manner as well. So the real transformation happens here when you think about how to make things different and special. The name really doesn't matter. If you name it and you don't change the mindset or the operating model, it's useless. To me, it doesn't show maturity. It's exactly the opposite. You're just changing the name, but what you do is still not meeting the value and not meeting the expectation of your stakeholders, internal and external. So it's not about what we call the PMO. It's about how the PMO shapes the organizational direction and enable the strategic outcomes and meet the customer requirements.
Yeah, very interesting. This is coming, everyone. This is coming from top PMO leader actually in the domain that Hiba won a couple of years back, and she's still contributing. Very interesting. I think I asked you a lot of questions, Hiba, Rauda, and Fred. Maybe we can take some questions from the audience, because I can see a lot of interaction in the chat and in the questions as well. So please do not hesitate to put your questions in the questions tab, because it's a bit hard to follow the questions in the chat tab. So I will go to the questions tab, and I can see a lot of questions here. You can vote on them, by the way, as well. Maybe I will start with the first one that appeared on my screen from Melissa. And I put the question at the middle. So Melissa asked, sometimes I'm under the impression that PMO gets projects thrown at them to manage with no saying, just focus on execution. How to involve PMO and project managers in project selection? I don't know who would like to have an opinion on this, Hiba? Yeah.
Yeah, and the setup of my PMO, we suggested to have a committee. The committee has different members. It's project approval committee. The PMO is one member, because the PMO will see things from one angle that could be, for example, the dependency between projects. They could see the duplication of projects that are in the current pipeline or future pipeline. But other members are important in the project selection, like customer happiness, finance department, strategy department. Different people can play different roles in the selection. But we did that because it should not be the responsibility of the PMO by itself to get involved in the project selection. The business needs to be involved, depending on the type of project as well, strategy and all the other key players in the organization. And this is why I was just saying that we need to integrate properly with the other functions within the organization, centralized and decentralized, so we can have better selection for our portfolio, better management, and so on.
Just to add to what Hiba said, that yeah, I totally agree. And what we did is we have automated in our organization, we have automated this process also to ensure the approval of the project manager before it goes to, final approval that we are endorsing this project. Because I agree that the project manager needs to look into, because there will be some commitment towards the delivery timeline, budget, and the team. So we need the endorsement of the project manager early on, instead of, as you mentioned, the question just through the project number.
Thank you, Rauda and Hiba. Fred, you would like to
I
add
just
something?
would like to,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, I just would like to add one perspective, okay? When work is thrown at the PMO, there is usually a reason for that. Because of the complexity of what PMOs have been doing for the past 20 years, we are at the convergence of many different disciplines and tools and methodologies. We're talking about, strategy formulation, strategy execution, project, program, portfolio management, change management, transformation, you name it. Which means that usually in an organization, there is no one else that is actually capable to understand complex cross-functional problems and deliver the solution to those problems. So most often we complain that we get stuff thrown at us, but we're actually victims of our own success. And the reason is, it's like the A-team, we're the only ones who actually can deal with it.
Can deal with it, yeah, totally agreed. This is very true. Thank you for answering this question. I can see we have another question that has 4 votes from Muhammad. Let's see here. Start live answers. So let's take it one by one, because I can see it's like 4 questions in the same question. How can the PMO build trust with project managers and department heads? And which governance reporting dashboard tools should be introduced first? Maybe we'll start the first part of the question. Maybe we'll Fred, do you have any opinion on that to help Muhammad and the PMO community? Of course, yeah, feel free.
Yeah, I do. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that question, right? But let's start with the trust. So building trust, it's a very, very big challenge, because most PMOs start their scope by being seen as police, right? So we're introducing controls. Why? Because when a PMO is established, it's usually to increase predictability. And to increase predictability, you need to increase controls. And to increase controls, you need to start policing people and tell them what they can or cannot do. So it's very difficult to identify what's in it for me. And you need to understand what makes project managers' life easier. And you need to establish tools and techniques and processes and mechanisms that allow for that without compromising the mission of the PMO. You need to talk to the department heads and understand what would make their lives easier, and so on and so forth. And sometimes you will face situations where all of those asks are actually conflicting with each other. So you need to be very good at articulating the narrative, and the narrative is you cannot please everybody.
Yeah, of course. This is very true. Maybe we'll move to the other part of the question. Yes, Hiba, go on, please.
I just want to comment on the part related to how to build trust. The trust, in my book, Elements of Leadership, I talk about trust, and there is a framework that I introduced called Trust Triad, in which it's built into 3 core pillars. First, integrity. So what you stand for, what you act upon is according to your values, and being honest, ethical, transparent, and so on. Second is consistency, because what you do repeatedly in your actions, the reliable actions, the predictable leadership behavior, the fairness, the stability over time is what also builds trust. And the last thing is the empowerment. So if you enable your teams, you enable others, you empower them, you give them ownership, trust them, give them autonomy, it will help them grow and it will increase trust between you and them. So it is applied whether you apply it within your own team as PMO or whether you apply it with your stakeholders or managers apply it with their stakeholders and so on. It is applied all over.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny, Heba, just to echo on that, it's exactly the same recipes that create trust in your children when you have them.
Yes, it is true.
Yeah, it's actually when we talk about
change behaviors.
Yeah, when we talk about trusts and then also a specific way of governance, a specific way of doing things, people, yes, in the organization need to trust the PMO, need to trust the strategy of the PMO. Of course, challenge it sometimes because this is very important to challenge things, to be creative. But also there's a lot of change management processes in between so that the people get, or the project managers or the PMO, because there's a new way of working, as we say, there's a new way of working, there's a adaptive to change. Some people are, for example, only used to a specific way in putting their things in Excel. Maybe when you, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, when you're like using a solution to maybe to a timesheet on different projects, to be able for the PMO to see what they are doing. If you tell that to the project managers, they would think that you want to track them. But on the contrary, you want to help them improve their project success, their project completion, the risk, dependencies, and different things, of course. And there's the other part of the question, maybe Rauda, if you have an opinion on it, because I know that in the previous jobs, you worked a lot with senior management, and right now as Techpreneur, you also work a lot with senior management, with C-level executives. So what KPIs, in your opinion, should senior management use to measure PMO success? And what common mistakes should be avoided when building a PMO from scratch as well?
So the KPI depend more about the value. So it depends on the organization that you are working on. For example, if it is a revenue generating organization, it will be, the revenue generated because of the projects delivered. It will be cost saving and optimization. It will be achieving the benefit realization. These are the really KPIs that they are really looking forward for. However, it also depends on, depends on the industry itself. So we need first of all to understand which industry we are working on, what are the strategic, focus, and based on that, for sure the KPIs will follow. So there are few steps before we decide on the KPI itself. And the common mistake I would say is we tend to go directly to the template, process, governance, instead of looking at what we need really to do. So I would say, first of all, start by understanding the maturity assessment and the level of the organization in order not to introduce, too much that, it will not be really accepted. You need to understand also the culture and the level of people around you in order to introduce change in a successful way. Try as much as possible to automate because now people, it is really, we don't want to put too many steps. And I would just highlight, the success story that we did with Plantsware, because one of the questions says which tool I should use, and I would highly recommend Plantsware for sure.
Thank you, Roda.
What we did actually is that instead of let's say, users, filling 4 different forms in different stages of the life cycle of the project, like let's say at the beginning in the initiation, and then once it's approved, and then when it goes to procurement, and they used to have different forms. And the fields were, I think, maybe more than 60 fields that they need to fill. But with the tool, with the right tool, with the automation, the user just filled the template once. We have reduced the number of fields to be filled, I think, by 30 to 40%. And then the same template, it converts based on the stages itself. So it is evolving thing. This has really reduced and streamlined the process, and still we are ensuring, the governance in a place. So this is what I would recommend.
Yeah, very interesting, Rhoda, and thank you for mentioning Planner. Of course, since as a tool, we also help PMOs and so on in their strategy, project portfolio, and much more. But as I mentioned before, there should be a process in place. There should be the tool is to help the project manager and the PMOs in their everyday lives to automate things, to have greater visibility. But if there's no real added value, to be honest, of a tool, there should not be even a tool at the beginning. Then there's the base, the base of the things that should be built up to have a tool and so on. And something you mentioned, Rauda, also that was very interesting to me, the benefit realization. Some people use the word benefit realization, others use KPIs. So working in Europe and the US and now for the MENA region, I can see the same word in different ways, different approaches, which is very, very interesting as well. So I guess we have a couple of more minutes. So we'll take one more question from the audience. Let's see who got voted the most. Well, we answered some of them. Actually, some of them really relate to the advice to the PMO, the trust of the PMO, and how to answer things. Yeah, there's a question. There's like 4 questions as well from Khalid Kasadi about strategy and vision. So let me add that in the middle. The first question: what are the PMO's top priorities for this year? I think this is future-looking, future-proofing what the PMO should be looking at, especially in the different changing world. Yeah, if I don't know, maybe someone has an idea about that. Hiba, Fred, Rauda, you want to give some advice to how you think PMOs should prioritize things for this year? Well, it's almost over, 6 months. It's like it finishes very fast. But maybe for the future, what do you think about the PMO and the evolving role of the PMO, especially with the different AI, automation, and different things? So, yeah. If you,
Can I
Hiba, maybe
get
you would
that?
like to start. Of course.
So of course, AI is getting a big traction right now. Like just before I walked to the webinar, there was someone saying Canva and Photoshop are going to disappear very soon, which is something I didn't expect. Google is coming up with a new service. AI edits the picture very quickly. This kind of future technologies or stuff that are happening in a rapid pace, they are changing very quickly. We need to take advantage of AI. Definitely is going to play, and right now it is playing a major role in the future of PMOs. But personally, I don't think AI will replace the PMO members and the humans within the PMO and all of these human elements that are being that are interacting with the PMO. The AI will amplify the maturity of the PMO. So if the PMO already has strong governance, as we talked about, strong foundation, you said, Johnny, strategic clarity, quality data, good decision-making practices, AI will enhance the intelligence, help leaders get faster and better decisions. But if those foundations are weak, AI will just simply show you the rubbish that is already hidden beneath the surface. At the same time, I believe that technology advances. As it advances, the human side should not be neglected. So it is not less important. It is actually getting more and more important by the minute, because organizations still need to succeed through people, through trust, as we talked about, communication, adaptability, integrity, kindness, and empathy, and all of that. And this is actually very close to my heart and my own way of leadership. This is my leadership philosophy, actually, and I wrote it also in my book. So AI, yes, but there is more into the future related to the human than AI, my point of view.
Thank you, Hiba. There's other questions. I don't know, Fred, if you,
Sorry,
I can
just
see.
to go on that, I think I have my reservations on AI, to be honest, because there is a lot of drive of, executives telling you need to use AI, and then you ask them, yeah, but to do what? They don't know. And using AI for the sake of using AI is like using
just tick a box.
It's a tick in a box, right? But there is one point that is relevant to AI, in particular at this point in time. It's the pace at which the world is changing around us, and this is accelerating significantly. And I think the future of the PMO is to, they always talk about an agile PMO, and no one can really define what that means. But for me, building up agility in the PMO means enabling organizations to be resilient in that ever-changing world. And that can go through technology, but it also goes through capabilities. It goes through enabling people to survive in this environment, fostering a culture of change, and so on and so forth. So I would say there is one thing that Heba mentioned, which is absolutely critical. It's people, and the PMO will have an increasing role to play on that aspect in every organization.
Yeah, to add to what Frederick said, totally I agree, because with this disruptive technology, there will be big shift in the business operating model of the companies. So people or organizations and companies will not operate as it is in certain sectors. They need to transform and to shift. And we see, like, when you go and read the Gartner's latest report, you will see that we are shifting to more productized organization. So the way of working, the operating model, the engagement, the skill set, the processes has been shifted. That's why I think PMO need also to adapt to this change and actually lead and support the organization into that big change and transformation. So I would say this is one of the biggest priorities for PMO.
Thank you, Rauda. To be honest, as much as I would like to stay much more with everyone and to ask, we have a lot of other questions. We had this webinar for 45 minutes. We already passed the time. But maybe we can take one more and last question from the audience, and then we can wrap it up, because, of course, this is a very interesting topic, a lot of things to be discussed. And if we did not answer your questions, of course, we'll send you a follow-up email. So maybe one last question, if that's okay with everyone. Maybe something we did not answer. Let me check here. So a lot of people starting a PMO, they want some ideas. We already shared that.
Find
So
a mentor.
also,
This is good.
yeah, exactly. Maybe one last question about AI as well, since everyone's talking about that. From Fazal Rabi, start live answer. With a lot of admin work expected to disappear with the emergence of AI tools, of course, like AI automation, task automation, resource assignment, for example. I'm just saying some of the things that are present in Planisware. So the question is, what advice would you give to the project managers to focus on? Like, I know that this is a very big subject, and also the PMI Institute is also focusing a lot on that, Google and other institutions, about to help in the skills of project managers and the PMOs to adapt to change, specifically in AI. They have some specific courses on AI as well at the PMI, which is the Project Management Institute. So in your opinion, maybe a couple of words, Hiba, Fred, and Rauda, what would
Can
you
I
give the
say
project management focus
three
on?
quick things?
Of course, you can say as much as you want.
Use PMI Infinity from PMI. It is a closed system from AI tool within PMI membership. It is free if you are a member. It will help you a lot to understand the project management concepts if you have specific questions. Second thing, don't sacrifice the information security of the data or of the information of your organization to get help from the AI. Follow the policies and procedures that are set by your organization. Mask data if you have to, but try to be careful when you're using it. Third thing, don't trust it blindly. You have to check, you have to give your own flavor into it. You have to make sure you don't take whatever you get from the AI blindly, because it has lots of bias and it is still learning. And even if it's 100% mature, you still have different areas of the reality of your project changing, and you need to keep checking whether the data or the output you have from the AI is valid and true.
Thank you. Rauda, would you like to add something?
Yes, just to add that learn how to use it in the right way, in a responsible way. It could be really a good technology or a tool if it is being used in the right way. It could help in predicting, risk and whether the projects will go as per the budget and timeline. This is things that also management is looking at. They want to know whether we go with this investment or not. So there are some capabilities that if it is being used correctly, but still human is on the loop or in the loop, it will really help. So learn as much as possible. It is an evolving technology, so always keep learning and being part of these type of organizations like the PMI could really help because it could guide and put the right governance and share the experience of other project managers as well.
Fred, thank you, Rauda, so much. Fred, if you'd like to say the last words about it.
You have two ways of approaching AI, right? You can embrace it or you can fear it. It's like any other previous revolution. But I think we need to go back to the basics, right? Why has project management been invented? Because by nature, people don't do what they're supposed to do. And AI is never going to fix this.
Yeah, agreed. Totally correct. Of course, a lot of things are online. Feel free to watch at the PMI Institute, which is the main institution for the Project Management Institute, but also other capabilities include like operational part as Planisware, which is an AI project portfolio management solution for the PMO and beyond. And of course, do not hesitate in reaching out to me, to any of the speakers, connect with them on LinkedIn as well. They're all present on LinkedIn. Visit their websites and do not hesitate in reaching out, of course. More than happy to have had you everyone, Rauda, Hiba, and Fred. It was my pleasure hearing from thought leaders, real life examples about the PMO, the struggles, the future, and what the future holds, of course. And I'm pretty sure that we'll see each other again for other events together in person or online. And I would like to say thank you to all the speakers and to all the participants who joined us. Such a nice webinar, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you all.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.